making sure we're defending Canadians' safety and security is always going to be a priority for us, and will continue to be.
90% of households and 10% of municipalities and Indigenous communities. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Liberals have missed every single emissions target they've set since they put it in. And according to the Parliamentary Budget Officer, the vast majority of Canadians are paying vastly more in carbon tax costs than they get back in rebates, a problem that's about to worsen as the government plans to triple the tax on gas, groceries, and heat. Canadians are already cutting back on their diets. Adults are living in their folks' basement because they can't afford a new house. Will the government cancel this insane plan to triple the tax?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I have a riddle for you. Who said, and I quote, "We recognize the most efficient way to reduce our emission is to use pricing mechanism." You could say it's the Minister of the Environment, or my friend and colleague, the Minister of Natural Resources, the Deputy Prime Minister of the Minister of Finance, but no, Mr. Speaker, it's the member of Durham, and I agree with him. Pricing mechanism is the most effective way to fight climate change pollution, and he said that in April of 2021, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Tripling a tax at a time like this is not just insane, it is cruel. And this is going to happen even in British Columbia. They have their own tax there, but the federal government, the costly coalition of the NDP and Liberals, want to force BC to triple its tax now, at a time when gas prices are $2.40 a litre. So once again, for the third time, will they cancel their plan to triple the tax?
The Honourable Minister.
And I want to thank the Leader of the Opposition to allow me this opportunity to talk about the fact that they were getting there next time. Carbon pricing is good. Now, what they wanted to put in place is the principle of pay to pollute. That's not how we do this on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker. The principle is polluter pay, not pay to pollute. Next time when they flip-flop again on carbon pricing like they've done about 15 times in the last 10 years, pricing pollution is good, and polluter pay principle. They need to go that extra step, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, there they go. They want to divide and distract. They attacked the little old lady living in rural Newfoundland, calling her a polluter for the crime of heating her home in February. According to the Liberal Premier of that province, after the forthcoming increase in the carbon tax, the increased cost of heating the homes of rural Newfoundlanders will have gone up by 80%. Worse yet, this government wants to triple the tax. Why won't they axe the tax?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy to announce that we are putting in place a program to help tens of thousands of Canadians to get off home heating oil. Price of home heating oil is skyrocketing because of the illegal invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Mr. Speaker, we will put $250 million to help tens of thousands of Canadians go to clean, efficient, renewable energy in Canada to heat their homes and save money, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Oh, great. Just what we need. A new government program to help us pay the cost of a government tax. Right? Don't worry if you live in the countryside of Atlantic Canada, where 40% of people now live in energy poverty after this government has been in power for 70 years. There's a new government program coming. So you need not worry about freezing in the dark as this new tax comes in. That's what they want people to believe. Canadians are not stupid. Canadians are not polluters. They have to heat their homes and travel in a big cold country. Will this government cancel its plan to triple?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians understand that climate change is real. And Canadians also understand that the global economy is in the midst of a green transition. It's the biggest transition since the Industrial Revolution. Our government believes we need to help Canadians with the green transition. We need to help Canadian companies like our auto manufacturers, and we need to help Canadian families like those families in Atlantic Canada which want to get off home heating oil. We're going to help Canadians with climate action because that's the right thing to do.
The government wants to tax it all away. In fact, they want to triple the carbon tax on gas, heat, and groceries. This at a time when Vancouver's gas prices hit $2.40 a litre. And we learned today that Ontario will soon have a 10-cent a litre sudden spike in gas prices. This is exactly the wrong time for a tax hike. Will the government cancel its plan to triple the tax?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I've already spoken today about one part of our government's solution that now enjoys support from all members of this House, and that is the GST tax credit. And I'd like to take this opportunity to call on all members of this House to support the other two elements of our plan. The $500 payment, one-off payment, to help Canadians struggling to pay their rent. Surely that makes sense to everyone. And supporting Canadian kids to be able to go to the dentist. Who in this House thinks a child under 12 shouldn't go to the dentist just because their parents can't afford it? I hope we'll all support these wise measures.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
1,000 days ago today, the IRGC, a terrorist group, murdered 55 Canadian citizens. Yet, 1,000 days later, it is perfectly legal for that same terrorist organization to raise money, coordinate, plan, and act right here in Canada. Unbelievable. Why?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
I want to be unequivocally clear that we condemn the downing of PS 752. We stood with those families. We unequivocally condemn the brutal murder of Mahsa Amini, and we stand with her family and with all of the women who are marching for their rights, Mr. Speaker. I want to be clear that Canada will never be a safe haven for any IRGC operative, for anyone who supports terrorists. We have taken tangible, consequential action, and we will continue to deliver consequences so that we can stand up for human rights here and around the world.
That's the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
But Canada is a safe haven for this terrorist group, which killed 55 Canadian citizens by shooting down a civilian aircraft. The government has the legal authority today to list that group as a terrorist entity, banning it from raising money, operating, coordinating, or in other ways existing here in this country. 1,000 days after this murder of our citizens, they have not done so. Why?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would hope that all members are united in standing with the families of PS 752, which is what we did right from the outset by repatriating bodies so that the families could grieve with them, which we did by creating pathways so that families could be reunited here in Canada, which is what we are going to continue to do in calling for consequences, real tangible consequences for those perpetrators of the downing of PS 752. Mr. Speaker, we have listed the IRGC Quds Force. We have ensured that Iran is listed as a state that supports terrorism, and we will deliver more sanctions to stand up for human rights here and around the world.
Opposition.
Fair over the weekend, and a farm family told me that they spent $12,645 on carbon taxes in July alone. Now, obviously, that gets passed on to customers. $12,645 in 1 month. Now the Prime Minister wants to triple the tax on that family, which they'll have to pass on, and even higher food prices, which have already gone up more than at any time in 40 years. How much will this family have to spend on carbon taxes when the Prime Minister triples them?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition doesn't seem to understand that clever slogans don't help families. Investments in Canadians help families. Checks help families. That's why we were so pleased when he reversed his earlier opposition to our GST tax credit and is now supporting that direct support for Canadian families. Why will he now not move forward and support our investments to support low-income rental families, families with rental, and low-income families with dental costs for their kids? Will he support rental and dental for low-income Canadians?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Feeding people is not a clever slogan. It is a necessity of life. This family spent $12,645 on carbon taxes in a single month. But it's still not enough for this Prime Minister. He wants to triple the tax, increasing the cost for that farmer, which then has to pass it on to the customer, which means that more of our food will be produced abroad and shipped up here, polluting more our environment by shipping, training, and trucking that food. Again, will he answer the question, how much will this family have to spend on carbon taxes once he's tripled them?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I just got back from Atlantic Canada, where people are reeling from the impacts of Hurricane Fiona. And the reality is these 100-year storms are going to be arriving with greater and greater frequency. We know that climate change is real, and it takes real plans and supports to fight climate change. And that's what we've been working on for the past 7 years, Mr. Speaker. At the same time as we've moved forward with ensuring that it is not free to pollute anywhere in this country, we are putting more money back in average families' pockets with the climate rebate. This is the focus that we need to continue to take for Canadians.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
One, his climate rebate comes nowhere near $12,645 for this farm family. Two, his carbon tax has not hit a single solitary emissions reduction target. It has not worked. And three, in the month of July, when this family was paying $12,645 in his carbon tax, supposedly for the environment, the Prime Minister jumped on his private jet 20 times. High carbon hypocrisy. He can't tell us how much the tax will cost. Will he tell us how much carbon he emitted in that month of July when he was raising
the Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, you don't have to convince Albertans or Saskatchewanians who've dealt with wildfires that climate change is real. You don't have to convince British Columbians who've seen record levels of floods that climate change is real. You certainly don't have to convince Atlantic Canadians who are rebuilding after yet another storm of the century that climate change is real. People know we need to take action on that, and that's exactly what this government has done by putting a price on pollution to ensure it's no longer free to pollute anywhere in the country and given more money back to families that need it. When is the Conservative leader going to get serious on climate change?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister hasn't gotten serious on climate change. He has a tax plan, not a climate plan, that has raised money for his government but has not reduced emissions or hit targets. Right. Now, this Prime Minister has the audacity to call this farm family polluters while he jets around in his private jet across the country. What the effect of his plan will be is to drive up domestic food production costs, drive that production out of our country to more polluting lands where it has to be transported longer distances. Why does he want to drive prices and emissions up and farm production and opportunity down?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if the Leader of the Opposition came up with, put as much energy into building a plan to fight climate change as he does into concocting elaborate theories and attacks, we might be better off. We might be able to compare a real climate plan from the Conservatives to what the government has been doing for the past 7 years. But he would prefer to focus on me than focus on Canadians and their future. We're going to stay focused on fighting climate change and putting more money back in Canadians' pockets. That's what Canadians expect. That's what we're going to keep doing it.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, Monday, Quebec gave itself a majority government. This new government is asking more powers in immigration. Some ask for all powers, and some ask for every single power to be provincial. First tableau, more power for immigration. The Quebec lieutenant said that yesterday Quebec has all the powers they need. French is receding.
The cost of turkey is up 16%. According to one food professor, cost of other items are up over 20%, and 1/5 of Canadians will have to reduce what they put on the plate this Thanksgiving weekend. How much will the Prime Minister's tripling of the tax on our farmers, truckers, and consumers increase the cost of Thanksgiving dinner for the future?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
We know Canadians across the country are struggling with the global inflation crisis, and that's why we're moving forward with concrete measures to help out. After we proposed a GST rebate that's going to help significant numbers of families across this country, the Leader of the Opposition came out criticizing it, but then fortunately reversed himself and is now supporting our GST credit. Will he now support the low-income dental supports for families? Will he support the rental supports we're giving? Kids deserve to have happy smiles. Why won't the Leader of the Opposition help them with that?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, they won't be smiling if their parents can't afford a little bit of pumpkin pie for them at Thanksgiving dinner. Look at the cost increases that have happened. 16% increase for the cost of turkey. 22% increase for potatoes. Bread up 13%. Butter 13%. Cranberries 12%. Bacon 10%. That all adds up to an unaffordable Thanksgiving dinner. The Prime Minister wants to make it worse still by tripling his tax on our farmers, our truckers, and ultimately our consumers. How much will that add to the cost of Thanksgiving?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, he wants to help Canadians, but he will not stand with low-income Canadians who want to give their kids better smiles. But there is another important issue that is on Canadians' minds, particularly Canadians' women's minds as we meet here. If it were not for global news, we would not have learned that the Conservative leader has been purposefully using his videos to appeal to far-right misogynistic online movements. These are anti-women movements, and they have had devastating real-life consequences. Mr. Speaker, I call on the Conservative leader to stand in this House, take responsibility, and apologize.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I condemn this organization, and I corrected the problem as soon as it became known to me, Mr. Speaker. But I condemn all forms of misogyny, including when the Prime Minister fired the very first female Indigenous Attorney General. When he mistreated minority young women in his own caucus who had to leave politics, and I condemn him for when he dressed up in racist costumes so many times he forgot them all. We condemn it always, Mr. Speaker.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the choice made by the Conservative leader in reaching out to extremist online groups, into pulling in anti-women, misogynistic groups for his own political gain, is one that he will have to answer for. I think women across this country want to know why he allowed this to happen and want to see him take responsibility for it.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I took responsibility and corrected it as soon as it became known to me. But the Prime Minister does not take responsibility for the extremism that he has funded. He funded a vicious anti-Semite to spread hatred online with taxpayers' dollars. He repeatedly, in fact, so many times he can't even keep track, dressed up in racist costumes for which he has not ever come fully to account. And he drove many women of his own caucus out of the party and out of Parliament altogether with his mistreatment of them. We condemn all of that behavior. We condemn misogyny always and everywhere, and we ask the Prime Minister to finally do the same.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have all seen the effective campaign that the Leader of the Opposition ran to become leader, using online videos, using ways of reaching out through social media. We all marveled at his admiration of old wood. What we didn't see was that every time he put out the...
Are we done? Prime Minister, from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, a lot of ink was spilled and a lot of admiration for the effectiveness of the Leader of the Opposition's campaign to become leader, using social media, using clever videos. We all marveled at his admiration for old wood. But what we didn't see, Mr. Speaker, was his choice to include deliberate reaches out to far-right organizations, including hateful anti-women organizations, to try and advance his own political gains. He has played too close to the line with extremists for too long. Now he's got caught. Will he admit it? Will he apologize? Will he take responsibility?
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker,